Greetings! The most eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed something is different. Yeah, well, if you knew just how much of a faff it is to set up and film the videos I make, then you'd understand when I tell you I cannot be arsed. But more on that later. I want to go back to April last year. As I scanned Twitter one afternoon, I came across retweets of nationalists attacking the DJ Liz Kershaw. I really was quite stunned by the nastiness this non-representative bunch were sending her. So I looked into what she could possibly have done to deserve it, because you'd think she'd pissed on a picture of Nicola Sturgeon live on Sky, judging by some of the tweets. Turned out it was because she'd repeated some lies that she'd seen as headlines which claimed that Ruth Davidson and Theresa May were more popular than Nicola Sturgeon, and that Ruth opposed the rape clause and that Holyrood could simply block it if they wanted to. So I calmly and with a bit of patience explained the truth behind the headlines, about how they had deliberately misinterpreted the polls to give Davidson a bit of positive publicity, and that how Ruth did not oppose the rape clause, and how in order to block it, Holyrood would have to put more money into mitigation of horrific Westminster policies that continue to hurt ordinary people, policies such as the bedroom tax. Not only did Liz accept the truth, but she thanked me for being so nice. But she and everyone else who read the responses would still have been left thinking most nationalists are utter twats. One person even tried to convince me to join in the attacks by showing me how Liz hates Nicola Sturgeon because she had liked tweets that attacked the First Minister. Obviously not a person that knows me. I'm well aware of how one person comes to hate another when they have never met them. It's because they're taught to. Fast forward to December. The Herald publishes a story about the Scottish Government's baby box initiative, claiming that parents were snubbing the box part of the baby box. This story starts off claiming that almost half of new parents said they would not be putting their child down to sleep in the box, but that almost half vanishes in the next paragraph as they tell you it was just 38% of those surveyed. Then it gets even dafter after they reveal that most of that 38% said they wouldn't be using the box as a crib or cot because they had a proper one, or were getting one from a friend or family member. Then the real figure appears. Just 1 in 12, or 17 of the 204 parents surveyed said that they would never let their child sleep in a box. So that almost half turns out to be 8%. The Herald could barely bring themselves to admit that practically all the parents surveyed were extremely satisfied with the box and its contents. We step into the new year, and Radio Scotland's morning news show, Good Morning Scotland, has as its headline every half hour from 6 AM till 9 AM, 10,000 ambulances dispatched with a single crew member on board over the past 4 years. For those that don't know, here's the breakdown. The Tories put in a Freedom of Information request back in the summer and get a response from the Scottish Ambulance Service back in August. Then sit on the info until a time when the main UK news would be focusing on the mess that is NHS England. The figures show that since 2013, a single paramedic has been sent out in an ambulance a total of 10,029 times. But in that time, 670,000 ambulances have been sent out for a shift, making the total just 1.5%. This story was also on the front page of the Herald, and they both mentioned that last part, which the Tories really didn't want reported, because the point was a smear of the First Minister. The bit the Tories focus on was that it was Nicola Sturgeon who told the ambulance service back in 2008 to stop the practice of rostering, i.e. forward planning, to have a single crew member on an ambulance, and single crew members should only be sent out in exceptional circumstances, as in somebody calls in sick. According to the Tories, that's not happening, except that's exactly what's happening. They never planned to have a single crew member go on their own, and right at the bottom of the FOI it clearly states that a single crewed ambulance will only be sent to a 999 call if they are the closest responder, and will always be followed by a double crewed ambulance. But of course that fact was glossed over by the Herald and totally ignored by the BBC. Anyone see where I'm going with this? Sooner or later, some unfortunate person is going to recall a headline they saw that said Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP were failing the NHS, or school children, or ambulance staff, or wasting taxpayers' money on baby boxes that no parent wants. They'll repeat it, and a horde of angry nationalists will jump down their throats and try to strangle them with their own entrails. A barrage of abuse with no explanation of why they are wrong will change not one single mind. They'll just see it as confirmation of all the times they've been told that Scottish nationalists are vile, awful, good-for-nothing, English-hating, ungrateful scroungers. Some will try and claim that telling the truth to people is not abuse. Well, I disagree, because it all depends on how you tell them. General tone is often lost in the written word, and even if no offence is intended, it can be construed as such by mistake, or even deliberately used as examples of abuse. It's the main reason I prefer audio-video blogs rather than written. I totally get it though. People are angry that we lost the referendum because of lies told by unionist politicians and instantly repeated without question by the media. They're angry that we didn't get the home rule promised if we voted no. They're angry we're being dragged out of the EU against our will because of even bigger lies, and they're angry that we're being denied another referendum to decide if we want to follow the UK out of the EU. People are angry. The trouble is that Davidson's only skill is getting people to divert that anger on all the wrong people. Tories are expert at it. They make voters angry about an issue and then they tell them who to blame for it, so they can pass the laws they need to pass, usually so that their financial backers can make a fortune from taxpayers. People in England have been falling for it for years. They've been blaming the unemployed, disabled people, immigrants and the EU for the economic mess created by the greedy bankers, thanks to piss-poor regulations and laws put in place by the Tories. Sure, it was New Labour driving the getaway car, but the Tories were right there goading them on to deregulate the banks and eventually bail them out with $850 billion. We're not immune either. Folk in Scotland like nothing better than a good rammy. So all Ruth needs to do is keep people angry, especially our supporters. A lot of them I see as being very much like juror number 3 from 12 Angry Men. That person that won't change their minds no matter how many facts and counter-arguments they're presented with. The only difference is juror number 3 eventually relents. Many of them never will. They've become devout believers. Many people refuse to believe an irrefutable truth simply because that truth puts them in the wrong. So what's my point? Well, it's simple. We need to be better in 2018. The Yes campaign didn't change hearts and minds and get the vote as close as it was by screaming at people. It was done through positivity, facts, and by taking the time to have a calm and reasonable debate with people. We need to get back to doing that. Town halls and doorsteps all across Scotland and convince people that there is a better path for Scotland to take in the world. If we get out there and get the polls showing a consistent 60 to 70% support for independence, how long could they continue to deny Scotland a referendum? And there's another thing we need to be doing, which brings me around to the start again. I'm done. No more videos from me. I always tried to make videos that were both entertaining yet informative, but this last year has seen the Tories get away with all of this, and it's caused my sense of humour to be cut by about 93%. And what I have left I need for the end of the month when I have to look at my wage slip. Plus I've not really got the time anymore. It takes a lot of time, effort, and not inconsiderable cost to make these things, like getting a microphone that doesn't have a constant hum in the background. It's been a hobby for me, and we need professionals doing this. Scotland needs new media, and it needs you to get behind it. Broadcasting Scotland is just one outfit that is looking to make high quality programmes for an internet channel, with a view to moving to Freeview later down the road. They need 35,000 subscribers, putting £5 a month in, so they can hire a team of 40 staff on decent salaries. Now, is there anyone out there that doesn't believe we need better media in Scotland? Not ones that just regurgitate political party press releases at the optimal time to divert attention from their own miserable failings. I reckon we have a minimum of 100,000 independent supporters in Scotland that can spare £1 a week to support a new news channel. One that won't be constantly running down the Scottish Government unless they absolutely deserve it. Can you imagine what could be done for Scotland with 100 grand a week? That's 5 million a year. Way more than Scotland and Union raised from their elite super rich supporters. we need to be better. Instead of pissing about arguing over tea cakes and ginger, we need to get behind those that are willing to step forward and be professional about taking Scotland forward. Sure, we can keep voting for the SNP, but let them get on with the job of running Scotland's public services, which they do brilliantly, by the way, under increasingly difficult circumstances. It should be the job of the people to deal with the constitutional question. If polls show consistent support for independence, then it becomes harder to oppose a second independence referendum. And the best way to get to that point is for the various fragmented parts of the independence movement to come together and as one to get out and start campaigning again. Street stalls, town hall debates, knocking on doors and speaking to people with the same level of positivity and respectful passion, which despite the entire Westminster civil service, the BBC and 5 billionaires with their media conglomerates campaigning against it, took the poll to 45% for yes. And when we get to that point, the SNP will be right there, ready to call the referendum. Instead of just moaning about the biased output of the BBC and the media in general, we need to offer an alternative. Instead of being constantly on the back foot of countering the attacks from those who support the unequal union, we need to be promoting our vision for an inclusive, progressive society, and we need to hold ourselves to that standard. Instead of falling to the level of our training, we must rise to the level of our expectations. Be better in 2018.